Obviously, coming off an exciting win, I want to make sure I take the opportunity to thank our fans that made the trip, across the country, to that game. Obviously there's a ton of fans in the stands, which made it really special. But also, what made it special is seeing so much green. Be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our first Big Ten championship team in cross country. Awesome accomplishment by them, and then. Already off to a good start tonight with women's basketball. I know men's basketball is about to kick off, so excited for them. And I know we got a big volleyball match this week against Nebraska, so a lot of exciting things going on in the department here at Oregon, and certainly thrilled to be a part of it.
All right, open questions. Start on the right with Chris.
Yeah, Dan, can we maybe get an update on Tez and how he's doing now?
That didn't take long. I thought it might be number one. I'm going to tell you the same thing I always tell you. As soon as they're ready to go, we'll have them out there. We're going to put player, safety first. Tez will be down, certainly right now in the near future, but I do anticipate us getting Tez back here soon. Same with Marcus. I think neither one of those injuries are as bad as maybe they appeared on the field. And I think we'll have those guys back, but I don't know when that looks like right now, but we'll do what we always do, take care of the players and what's in the best interest of them, and both those guys fighting to get back as soon as we can have them.
Right, Zach.
You guys punched in for a touchdown with the game already in hand with 25 seconds left. Just curious your mentality in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they had a timeout. If they utilized the timeout, then there's the opportunity for them to stop it, and you're trying to assess, are they going to be in position to use one or not? And obviously, looking back at it, it's easy to say, okay, they probably weren't going to utilize one. They're going to let the clock tick out. But not, at some point that could happen to us as well. I'll never be ashamed for us going to score a touchdown. It's our job to stop them. And I know I've got a ton of respect for Coach Moore and the job that he's done. He's been amazing every time I've got to interact with him. And, you could feel bad, but as a competitor, you want to go out there and do the best you can to score. And I'm sure there certainly were some Oregon fans who were excited that we did there too. It looks like James might have been one of those guys who was excited. I got your back, James.
For the record, I never wager on sports, but
good to hear. I'd say that's a safe decision all the time.
With Tez down for the time being, just the outlook in terms of depth at the position, and with Pelham on 4 games, we've seen Jeremiah before, we've seen Jurion in limited capacity. Mentioned is that because of injury, is Jurion in a better spot to contribute more, and how confident are you in whether it's Dylan or Jeremiah to step up in a bigger role?
Yeah, I'm confident we have a plan, right? And I'm confident that we've shown there's a lot of guys that can play winning football for us right now. Who that'll be come Saturday, I mean, I'll leave that for us to figure out in-house. But we've got a lot of guys that can play winning football for us, and there's going to be some guys that have stepped up like we've had all season. Obviously we lost Jordan Birch earlier in the season, had some guys step up and play big roles and help us there. There's plenty of guys that can help us and have played winning football on offense, and that's our job to create those opportunities for guys. And it's also their job in practice to create those opportunities. So there's going to be some more opportunities for guys. We'll see what it looks like as they get out there.
Back right, Aaron.
Yeah, just kind of building off of that, like you said, Dylan had a really good response to when he was asked about Trayshawn and his in development and growth since his mistake. But how have you kind of seen him take accountability in practice, kind of from that mistake in the Ohio State game until now to be able to contribute in a big-time game when Tez did go down?
Yeah, it's an everyday process for every single person on our team. We do a good, bad, ugly when we go to the doctor, and we did that this morning. One of the very first plays I got to show the team was the screen pass to Kenyon Sadiq, and you got to point out, Trayshawn Holden's effort blocking, right? And everyone wants to acknowledge some of the great pass, catches that he made, which were really impactful. But I was really proud of that performance, and then his ability, watching him in that play, he just blocked somebody's tail all the way out of bounds and then turn around and get back and be able to play the next play. I think that's a great moment of growth for him. Also had, obviously an elite play on the scramble, big completion there at the end of the game to extend a drive. So proud of his performance and what he's been able to do, and also acknowledge the parts where in the game he wasn't right and he can grow and get better. So I thought he did what he needed to do for the team to have success. And when you have somebody goes down and there's other moving parts and you're playing a different position than maybe you practiced all week, I thought that was impressive just to be able to deal with the musical chairs that kind of exist there at wideout at time, and those guys be able to go out and execute.
Back left, Matt.
I haven't asked about Casper in a while. Is he going to be coming back and in the mix at receiver?
Yeah, I don't know that he will. And again, we'll always put the player first. He's trying his tail off to rehab his way back. He's been doing such a great job for us this year. I'm really proud of his growth. But if he's able to, fantastic. But I'm not anticipating that necessarily happening.
Left, Jared.
What do you see from Maryland's offense, and specifically 10, their wide receiver, who I think has over 900 yards now?
Yeah, 10 and 1 are both really dynamic wideouts. They've really opened up in the passing game, top 10 in the nation, as a passing team. They create a lot of explosive plays. Coach Locksley does an unbelievable job there on offense, and Coach Gaddis of creating some, advantageous, matchups when it comes to their RPO game and their ability to get the ball in space to those guys. So they're all threats for big plays. They're explosive play threats consistently, and their quarterback's delivering the ball really well to them right now.
In Tuz's other role on punt return, we saw both Ryan back there for the one and obviously Evan thereafter. Will Evan be the answer going forward, Dan, or because the numbers start to get thin and who's sitting on 4 and how you manage that, will other guys get a look like Nico, who's done it before in his career? Will he get some reps at punt return now going forward?
Yeah, we'll take a look at multiple guys, but we practice it every single day in practice, and I think that's a tough position that we put Ryan in. He's fielded some really good ones this season. We saw him field one earlier this season and take a big hit. That's a tough situation to put a freshman in there, and I think it's a growth moment for him. But we'll continue to see what we evaluate in practice, and then as coaches, I think there's some challenges there for us to make it more challenging for those guys when they do catch the ball. What's it look like after that, right? And I think that's somewhere for us to grow, but we'll evaluate it at practice, and you guys will see it when it comes to fruition on Saturdays.
Front right, Zach.
X's and O's aside, is it strange at all to prepare for a conference opponent that you literally have no experience or no history with?
Not really.
In the back, Aaron.
I feel like a big focus for your defense and a lot of teams this season, they've said that they want to stop the rush. When you're focusing on a team that is a little bit more advanced in the pass game, like how do you switch that focus week to week? And maybe what are some things that you're focused on when it comes to a team that is really successful in the pass game specifically?
Yeah, you always want to take away, a team strength, and I think that sometimes it can seem like it's just being regurgitated, like this is what it's going to take to win the game. But we always spend a lot of time evaluating what does it take to have success against a team. So the best defenses in college football consistently are always good at stopping the run, right? That's teams that win winning football games are always good at running the ball and stopping the run. So that's an important trait. But certainly you want to be able to take away a team's strength.
Back left, Matt.
The TV broadcast said during the game that they felt like your secondary was maybe the best in the country. I'm not going to ask you to agree or disagree unless you want to, but just why do you feel like this group is so good and they've collectively gelled quickly as so many of them are transfer portal guys?
Yeah, ultimately, I think our players have each other's back, right? And there's times where again, it's advantageous for the defensive backs because we're doing more with less up front. And then on the other end, we've been aggressive at times and we're doing more up front, which means they have to be able to do it, but hopefully for less time in the back end. And those guys have done really good playing off each other, understanding situations, and we'll continue to get challenges as the year goes on, but they've done a good job of executing.
Front left, James.
What stands out about Billy Edwards and what he's done for them at quarterback for a guy who's, the first year starting capacity to be third in the conference in passing?
Yeah, just that. I mean, he's extremely efficient. He knows where to put the ball and when to put the ball there. I think they've done a good job of coaching him up. Where's the extra hat and how can I take advantage of advantage throws when those opportunities exist? And he's been really accurate doing that.
Jared on the left.
Kavika came in for Marcus at the end of the game against Michigan. Is he planning on starting if Harper can't go, or will it kind of be decided this week in practice?
Yeah, it's decided every week for every position on the field in practice each week. But certainly we're going to continue to have competition. But Kavika's proven to have that opportunity and that role for us throughout the season. We'll continue to assess it this week through practice.
Back left, Matt.
With Jalil and Gary and Dave, do you anticipate them being available at any point this season, or is that kind of one that down the road just doesn't look like it?
Yeah, I do.
Back right, Aaron.
We're about 1 month out from early National Signing Day. I know that date was kind of pushed up, but how crucial kind of will these next home games be for recruiting with that signing day being pushed up? And what is your opinion of the signing day being pushed up and how it may challenge you, especially when you're focused on winning out a season?
Yeah, great question. Recruiting always matters, right? And it's something you can't just do sometimes. You got to do it all the time. You got to do it every day. So I think every single game, regardless of home or away, impacts our ability to have success when it comes to bringing in great players. I think players across the country right now see that what we're able to do and how our players are performing and know that they want to be a part of that. If they want to challenge, if they want to compete for a team that's competing to win, that we're going to put them in position to be able to do that. and our guys being able to have success. So it certainly always matters. And really that's just part of the landscape of college football, of juggling the different, times that exist when it comes to signing days, when it comes to being able to be on the road recruiting. All those things are a challenge, but we want to be the team that can manage that the best.
Front left, James.
Locksley's connection to Tosh obviously is there, and you coached with Azar back in the day. When did you first cross paths with Locks, though, Dan? Because you were in Tuscaloosa and he was back in Maryland at that time. So how did you first cross paths with him through the tree?
Yeah, I've obviously known him through college athletics and watched what he's been able to do a little bit more from afar. And then we really bumped into each other at the Broyles Award. I think it was the first time I was there at the Broyles Award, and I've stayed connected. Obviously, I've got to link up with him a couple times at Big Ten meetings, and I think he's always been a guy that presents challenges when you talk about who are guys that are hard to defend. I think he's always done a really good job of that in college football.
Last question, James.
Dan, coaches are always very vague and maybe even deceptive regarding injuries, so you're in elite company there. But how much, if at all, does what happened to Florida State last year maybe change how you approach that in disclosure over the next month? Because, hey, what if somebody's out and they don't know, and now your seeding is impacted because we don't know what this team looks like without its number one player at whatever position? Does what happened last year change your outlook and how you go about disclosing injury information over the next month?
Yeah, I never really disclosed anything, so I'll continue probably not to do that. But I haven't thought about it that deep. I was just a PE major, man. I've never thought about that far down the road.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yeah, both graded out champions, and I thought they played their best down the stretch, in particular that last drive. So that's good. Should, again, keep saying this, build confidence as we move forward, both those guys being in that spot. So new challenge this week. That game's behind us. Time to focus on Purdue.
On the D-line real quick, is there any update on Tyleek? And beyond that, can you just get into how well Caden McDonald is playing up front?
Yeah, K-Mac really stepped up for us, and we're hoping that he can continue to give us more and more snaps. But great to see him with the game on the line. I think it was the third down play where he really got a lot of movement on the center, and that made a huge difference in on that play especially. But he was in there for all those plays 2 weeks in a row. So big spot for him to step up in. So we're going to continue to try to find ways to get him on the field. And Tyleek's doing good. He's day-to-day. We'll see how he is when he comes in.
Tony Gergman, Buckeye Huddle.
With the defensive tackle situation, what has Edric Houston done to get involved there?
Yeah. Well, he's got a very bright future ahead of him. I think he's going to be a really good football player. Hasn't played a lot inside, so he's learning that position. But I think that when you look at how he projects out, we got one here now. He's got to keep growing. He's got to keep learning from Ty and Tyleek, and the intricacies of playing inside, because it is different than playing on the edge. But he has the size, the power, the strength, the toughness to play inside for us.
So do you think he's going to stay there? And what was his response to the position?
He really embraced it. I think he sees what this could be for him. Not saying that maybe down the road we wouldn't move him back outside, but I think he realizes when you go from being a very good, athletic and strong defensive end and now moving inside, now you become elite as a three technique because you have that speed and quickness, and he does have the power to hold the point of attack.
Over to the right, Don Perry, WBNS.
Coach, the first rankings come out that matter. Will you pay attention to that, and just any thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, just focused on Purdue. That's all that matters, and rankings right now for us, again, don't mean anything because you got to keep winning. And that's for us, every time we walk off the field on a Sunday, no matter what happened the game before, that game is over with. It's on to Purdue. I think Purdue, their record may not say it, but they've been playing good football. And, we've got to come in and play physical in this game, and we got to continue to build on what happened last week. And that's what today's going to be all about in a Tuesday practice, because, whatever the rankings are, they are. The matter, as we've always said, the ones that matter are the ones at the end of the year.
Obviously, a huge win over there. Love the celebration afterwards. I didn't know you were such a great dancer. As far as what that does for the confidence? Because, you know, it's one thing to say it, but to go do it, and the way you were able to drive down the field and close out that game, what's it do for your club's confidence?
I think we know we can do it. It's been 2 weeks in a row we've done that now. You know, do I think that we should be in that situation in that game? No. You know, I think our execution has got to be better this week, you know, for where we need to go and what we want to do. But we also know the game of football takes twists and turns along the way, and you're going to find yourself in games. You know, there was pluses and minuses on both sides, positive plays on both sides, negative plays on both sides. But, you know, you got to win the game in the fourth quarter, and a big part of that is being physical so that you can control the game at the end of regulation. And, you know, like we did, we milked the clock there with 5 minutes plus to go in the game. And, you know, I've been in games before where, you know, in 5 minutes there's about 4 or 5 different possessions. You just go back and forth, and, you know, it turns into a, you know, a shooting match where, you know, it's a 35-28 or 48, you know, 42. And this one here, you know, we ran the ball and milked the clock and you know, finished the game that way. And that's what this game needed. You know, you never know what's going to come up next. If we don't get to stand on defense, offense has to go out and get a score. So whatever it takes to win the game is what we got to do. But it all comes down to, you know, how physical we are running the football and stopping the run.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
You know, Will should be your stable force, being such a veteran as your quarterback. A couple turnovers there. I know the one at the goal line's a bit fluky in the way that thing came out. The touchback rule is what it is. Any concerns, though, as far as Will trying to protect the football in big games moving forward?
Well, it can't happen. It can't happen. You know, it's just, we got to take care of the football. And, you know, the first play, you know, he got you know, fooled a little bit in terms of what he saw. And so that, you know, unfortunately sometimes like that, those things will happen. But, yeah, we can't fumble the ball inside the 10-yard line. Just can't do it. So, you know, we were, like he said, you know, we were fortunate in the game because of, you know, the play of so many guys down the stretch, and turned into a 4-quarter game because of that. You know, we take care of the ball better. It doesn't have to be that way. So he knows that. And, you know, we're going to keep hammering at home this week, and a huge emphasis on execution and taking care of the football.
Ryan, what did you like from what Carson gave you guys as left guard, and what did he show you in the last couple of weeks that made you guys think he was ready after going out this year?
Yeah, you know, we looked at him during, you know, the preseason. He was out with illness. He was playing backup center. We moved him to guard. We felt like at that time, you know, Tegra gave us more at right guard, and with Donnie at left guard, Seth was, you know, solidified at center. So, you know, we kept Carson right there at center at the time. Since, you know, Donovan got moved out, you know, we felt like there was a hole there that we needed to fill. And, you know, we had a couple different options there, and some good options. But in this game, we felt like experience was the right thing to go with. And, you know, after watching the film, he stepped up in a big way and showed us that he can play guard. And so we're going to continue to go with Carson. And, you know, we saw what we saw on film, and now he's got to keep building on it.
Right, obviously, Carson giving you that boost is helpful because it answers one question. I'm curious about the last week with Donovan and the decision to move him to tackle. For a kid that's played guard for 3 years, has a lot of NFL prospects, etc., how was the conversation with him about taking that risk and moving out there? How did he handle it post-game? How did he handle it, and how does it feel different after the game?
You know, I think anytime you're making a move like that in a big game and going against a high-end player like Carter is, you know, there's a lot to process there, but he never flinched at all. You know, he never thought twice about it. He embraced it. I think, you know, Justin did a great job of preparing him, you know, in 1 week. Now, he had been getting reps out there in practice, but it's not the same as preparing to play in a game, especially when you're on the silent count, especially against a great player like Carter. And so, you know, we really did tailor the game the best we could around that. There was a couple third downs. We just had to call it and play it, and we did help him with the cadence that one time, and then Carter got us, you know, on the other ones. But I thought Donnie absolutely just fought his tail off and played physical the whole time, and wore those guys down, and embraced a new role in a tough spot. So I think he can be a very good tackle. I mean, just watching his athleticism, his length, the way his feet move. I mean, he can play good tackle for us. Now we got to keep getting him the reps and keep getting more and more of the experience of being out there in confidence. But you know, he's showing now that he can play both positions. So I think it's only going to help him.
The 4th and 2 in the second quarter from midfield where, I mean, it's a risky play call up there. You risk giving momentum back to Penn State at midfield. To call that play to Jelani, what had you seen out of him in the last couple of weeks to put him in that spot? Because it seemed like a player who maybe hadn't found his footing.
Yeah, those are not easy decisions. But you gotta, in that moment, I felt like we had run the sneak before. We wanted to try to get Will on the perimeter. They did a nice job of kind of sniffing it out, but Will continued to keep the play alive. We didn't think it would get all the way to Jelani, who was actually the last read in the progression. We had a tailback in the flat. We had Jeremiah on the over. And then here comes Jelani on the side view mirror, which I don't think we threw all week. So for those guys to do that, and like I said the other day, I think he got 3 catches and 3 drops on one play, Jelani Sutherman, on that play. I mean, it was just one of those plays you got to make, and he did. And but his sideline was excited for him. But I think when you look at Jelani, you see somebody who has a tremendous amount of talent. He's growing every day. He's maturing every day. When he's consistently doing his job and knowing what he's doing, you see it. And I think that's been the thing that's held him back a little bit, but he's making those improvements now. And the more he can build trust in the staff and making a big play like that in a big spot certainly does a lot for him.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Brian, for Carson, since he didn't play in that Cotton Bowl, what growth have you seen from him really since that Michigan game last year now that makes you think this can be a consistent step for him?
Carson has toughness. Carson has athleticism. Carson's smart. And I think after watching the film and maybe not taking on as much of the stuff in terms of making all the calls and everything like that, that maybe having Seth there next to him and Donnie over here next to him allowed him to focus on his job and not, be worried about all the different things that happen. Like he can go play football, and that's what he did. So I think there's a lot of growth and maturity there emotionally.
Obviously, you don't want to pigeonhole him into it being a guard or center right now. But
right.
You talk about not having the responsibility of making all the calls. Being guard, being next to Seth, seeing him do everything, how does that help him, whether he's here as a guard?
I think you'd have to ask him, but from my point of view, having Seth in there certainly has built the calmness isn't the word, but a confidence. They're much more sure of themselves in there, and Seth gets everybody on the same page, but also talks to them about how we're going to do things, in terms of footwork, about hand placement, about the double teams. And I think that's been great for Carson to see that. When you think about Carson's, first couple years here, I don't think, we ever expected Luke to leave after 3 years. And he did, and kind of left a hole there. So Carson got forced into action a year early. Another year under Luke, and seeing Luke operate for another year as a senior would have gone a long way, and that's usually the ideal situation for a center. Carson got forced into action, sooner than we have liked, but now he's got a chance to see Seth work, and I think that's really going to help him in his future. And you saw it there on Saturday, and like you said, whether it's guard or center, I think he's in a better place now, and certainly going out there and doing it on the field, leads us to believe that's the case.
Stefan Krajcnik, Cleveland.com.
So follow up on the offensive line there, you guys, celebrated for the guys as the offensive players of the game. What more do you think you could see from Tyra kind of moving forward to have better performances?
Yeah, we try not to do that too much in terms of putting out the grades. I mean, he was close, but the grades are the grades, and you got to grade out a champion in order to get player of the game. But we thought he played his tail off. He played really, really hard. Just a couple things in there that we got to clean up. And this is not a feel-good situation. Either you grade out over 80% or you don't. And he was right there, but we were real with the grading, and doesn't take away from the effort and what he did, and we definitely called him out in the meeting and made sure everybody understood that he was right there and gave a great effort and was part of the offensive line. So when you're grading, you're looking at assignment, you're looking at technique.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
For Will Howard, when he makes mistakes, he seems to move on from them pretty well, at least when talking to him after the game. That seems to be something he really has. Is that
better than me?
Is that just wiring in a guy? Is that something you guys can coach into someone to move on to the next play? Do you bring sports psychologists into the situation? Have you seen a guy like him that moves on that quickly? Or does
I mean, I know he does. He definitely does. He's got a knack for that. And we talk a lot about. There's a fine line of like, you make a mistake and it's like, well, let's just move on to the next thing. Well, hold on, we just, have a major problem here. So there's that fine line there. And so what we try to do in practice, and I try to do, is whether it's a quarterback, the kicker, the left guard, or, the corner, is, make it hard for them in practice when they do make a mistake. I mean, just get all over them so that they feel what that's going to be like in a game, and then you watch to see how they respond. If that play bogs them down for the rest of practice, then we got some growing up to do here. And so we try to do that in practice, but Will's not somebody who's been in the program for a long time, so I can't sit here and say that any of the coaching staff has any credit for that. This is something that Will's had, and whether he earned that or learned about this when he was in high school, or gained it from being at Kansas State, you'd have to ask him. But that's something that we all try to do, And again, whether it's a corner getting beaten a goal ball, you got to, like Davis, and the way he came back after getting that that completion on him, and they did call the hold on him, to come back and make that play. Like, that's what you have to do in these types of games. And I will say that I do feel right now in the middle of the season, probably more than in years past, that we've been tested more. Our players have been tested more, the team's been tested more, so that we're a little bit more resilient than maybe in the past when we played against teams or had games where we found ourselves in games that were a little bit lopsided, and you don't really get tested, you don't really get put into some of those tough situations. So we're counting on that to be a difference.
Are you concerned at all with Seth's snaps? I saw during the game there were some low ones, and Will at one time kind of tried to calm him down, I think. I don't know if that's nitpicking, or have you seen anything?
No, we want very, very accurate snaps. It makes a big difference, but I think he's been accurate with them. I thought he handled the environment. I thought the fact that our offensive line had 0 false starts, 0 holding calls was big in the game. I mean, that's what we needed. We needed a clean game. And so there's a lot going on there. And as you know, with the silent cadence, you kind of saw we were tapping and then moving our head. And the head movement is so that the offensive line can then realize, okay, the ball's about to be snapped, and anticipate that. And I didn't realize it, but if you ever try to just kind of move your head quick and then snap the ball, I mean, you can get dizzy quick. You can almost feel like you have vertigo. And so it's not easy. It's not. And I thought Seth handled himself well, and handled the environment well overall.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Ryan, Chip seemed like he was at his best on Saturday. What were your thoughts on the game that he called, and were there moments throughout the game where you thought to yourself, man, what a call there?
Yeah, I mean, we all work hard putting the game plan together, and I thought he called a good game. I thought he had patience. I'm not always the most patient. I think he's more patient than I am. And I think, he understood that, we needed to establish the run in that game and be physical. And, I think he did that in the game. And then when it was time to call some things that put guys in conflict, I thought they were well designed. And those plays, man, they take a lot of work. Whether it comes from the design of the play early in the week, then it comes to, how we're going to rep them, the scout team look, the protection. I mean, there's just so much that goes in, like the one play to Emeka. I mean, that took a lot of work. And meetings, walkthroughs, corrections the next day, just to get to that, to get to be a competitive excellence. Then you got to get the right coverage, So a lot of things came into play. And even just a strain by Donovan on that play, just to give enough to push that, defender off, to give Will one more second to flip his hips to get the ball thrown. So, but that's what it takes in terms of execution. Those plays were well executed, and we need more of that. And we got to be clean and simple so our guys can play fast. But I do think he called a good game, yes.
Real quick, Carson, we'll talk about that experience and the decision to go with him. How much of that is experience just in games, and how much of that was experience in atmospheres like that? He's been in atmospheres like that, so he wouldn't be overwhelmed by the moment.
That was what we were counting on, yeah. And I do feel like Carson was practicing better, but I can't sit here and tell you that there was a whole bunch in practice that, put him ahead of anybody else. But then when he had the opportunity, that's life. He grabbed it. But now where are we going from here? I mean, again, the Penn State game's over. Like, we gotta worry about Purdue. We got to keep moving forward. So, now we'll see kind of how things go as we move forward. But he showed he can do it, and again, I hope that builds confidence for him as he moves forward.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, one of the Penn State offensive linemen said after the game that he felt like your D-line was doing things, particularly against the run, that they hadn't seen on film before, some stunting and things of that nature. And it does just look like the last 2 weeks there have been some noticeable differences with structures of the defense, things like that. Where are you, I guess, in putting on the field some of the conversations you guys had coming off of the Oregon game, how has that looked to you over these last 2 games?
I mean, it's looked the way that we've wanted it to look. You know, we almost, you know, kind of a goofy word, but like re-engineer the defense. We had to almost start from scratch after the Oregon game. What I mean by that is not like, you know, scrap everything, but like, okay, what are the base foundations of what we're trying to get done? Who are our best players? We got to put our best players in a position to be successful. What are teams, you know, scheming us up, you know, in terms of what are they looking at? And, you know, you start going through that process and you almost have to kind of knock it down and rebuild it a little bit. Now, you know, to the naked eye, there's probably not a lot out there that you're really noticing, but there's significant things that are going on that I think are giving our guys confidence. I think we're doing a better job of putting our guys in a position to be successful. I think we're getting lined up better. So we got to keep building on it, though. I mean, there's a lot of football left, and we've already put a lot of football on film. So we got to keep upgrading. And there's that line of, you know, doing what you do well and being able to play really fast, and then making sure that you have enough change-ups so guys can't, you know, nail you down.
The re-engineering word you used, I'd imagine that's only possible if you have veteran players who can handle those kind of things. Like how much of a key has that been as you change things a little bit?
But it wasn't, that's what I'm saying, I guess. It wasn't like, hey, we're redoing all of this. It's like, let's just trim all this out of here and just focus on these things right here. These are the best things we do right now, and then kind of go off and have the one-offs from there. So, like, again, you know, you didn't all of a sudden start to see, you know, a 3-down front, and you know, so it wasn't like that. It was just really cleaning up some of the communication, how we do things, putting the right guys in the right spots. But, you know, it doesn't take much to be a little bit off, you know. And I think that, you know, we're moving towards where we want to be. And, you know, there's going to be really good offenses coming at us here soon. By the way, I think Purdue's offense is playing well. I think both quarterbacks are talented. They do a good job on offense. So, like, you know, if our guys think that, like, they're just going to go out there and play this Saturday, they're wrong. I think, you know, they're a much better team than their record shows. So, you know, we got to have a great week of practice and keep growing. And, you know, if anybody in this building here is thinking about last week, then they're distracted, and that can't happen.
Adam King, WBNS.
Kind of building off that real quick with the defense, how much, you said you wanted to be more involved in meetings and hands-on, how much do you think that's helped in kind of the re-engineering and changing a little bit?
I mean, I think we have a really good system in place. I think we have really good coaches. I do think that maybe just being in there and being a little bit more systematized in terms of, you know, here's what we're thinking on first and second down. Here are some thoughts I have. How do we tie this all together? How do we put our best players in place? You know, what are we thinking here on third down? What are the first few calls in the red zone? And just, you know, making sure I got a good feel for that, and then giving just a little bit of feedback, not a lot. I don't want to bog them down, but a little bit of feedback on what I'm seeing as an offensive coach, to make sure that, you know, they know not only all in that room together, like, you know, when they leave, like they're all on the same page, but I think the communication has been good, and I think, yeah, I do think at least being in there has helped. Listen, you know, talking to the coaches and making sure we're all on the same page.
Going back, you called it a crossroads game against Penn State. There were things said after the Nebraska game, after the Oregon loss. There was, you know, obviously a big game looming in Happy Valley. You guys win that game. How have you seen the energy from the week before kind of shift now in this place with everything now in front of you?
Yeah, we'll find out today how we do it, you know, in our 2:30 team meeting, and how we do it practice, and where we go to Purdue. That's it. You know, I mean, was it a good win? Yeah, it was a good win, but it's just allowed us an opportunity to go chase our goals. That's all it's done. You know, we knew we had to go do that, and, you know, we knew when we looked at the schedule going to Oregon, to Penn State, were going to be two great road opportunities for us. You know, we didn't get the first one, we got the second one, so that was good, but a lot of football ahead of us, and that game's behind us now.
Hey folks, I'm going to ask if we can try to keep it to one question, or we're going to run out of time. Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Because Jeremiah Smith is off to such a great start, and he scored a touchdown in every game before this one, from your perspective, was it, I don't know, what do you make of the fact that he actually didn't score a touchdown?
We had a chance, we just didn't connect on it. Yeah, we wasn't for a lack of trying, but, you know, he is off to a great start, and I thought even for a freshman in both of these two environments, you know, he didn't flinch at all. And I think now that we're in mid-year, he's become a veteran player. He's not really a freshman anymore in my eyes.
Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach. The last drive, when I asked about that, the first play, you're on the 1 yard line, and you got to get it out of the shadow of your end zone to avoid a safety and give them the ball back. That play ends, and the quarterback and all 5 of the offensive linemen are together at the 5 yard line. Just, I mean, you could have had 2 or 3 of them get there, but everybody got there and shoved Penn State back. Just how important was it to start it by taking away the risk of the safety and then going from there?
Yeah, I mean that was it. I mean we're backed up on the 1 foot 1 yard line, and we got to bang it out. We got to get that first down. Not only do you got to get past the 5 because of the backed up punt, but you got to get that first down. You got to get it out of there. And we know there's going to be a ton of guys in the box, and it's just going to come down to running through the extra guy and making sure you get movement up front. But to see the offensive line jump up and fist pump, and Will get the thing out, I think, to the 4 or 5 yard line. I mean, that's what we needed right there in that moment. And the huddle was like that, and then in the next play, what we're running, getting vertical and getting downhill, and it started with the offensive line, but other running backs ran hard too. But that's got to be who we are. I mean, that doesn't matter if we don't do it again next week. It's got to be the same thing. But good to see us finish the game that way.
Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Coach, I know you didn't get to the leave no doubt part of this game, but
Right.
in terms of the way the new playoff structure is and everything, how much does that matter in retrospect anymore when style points aren't really as big a deal as they used to be? Is a win a win?
Yeah, a win is a win. And I was thinking about that a little bit this week is, with us huddling now and with everything going on, like, it's a different style of game. Yeah, again, I don't remember finishing a game with 5 some odd minutes on the clock, and that was it. I mean, the game was over. We milked it out. And we had some longer drives, and, we're not snapping the ball at 20 seconds, so the number of plays are way, way down. It's almost more like an NFL style of game nowadays because you're huddling. So, yeah, the number one key is turnovers, rushing yards. All these situations become more and more critical. And we didn't do a good job in the red zone. It almost cost us the game. And so the situational football becomes more and more important. But, yeah, I mean, these games are going to be that way because, we're huddling now, and a lot of teams are huddling now. And so, I just think that, yeah, the game has changed a little bit in terms of that. Certainly much different than it was, 5 years ago when it was just back and forth and high-scoring games. So efficiency and execution are at all-time high.
Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
You talked several times now about the goal line stand, and you talked about defending an inch of grass there. But just what goes into, from your eyes, a goal line stand, and what is important for getting that sort of a stop? Because obviously you had 2 of them on Saturday.
Well, it starts with the guys up front. Yeah, it starts with K-Mac and Hero and Ty and JT, Jack. I mean, those 5 guys holding the line right there. And then it's this next level of guys. It's Cody, it's Sonny, those guys. And then, like, as the pile is there, I mean, you got to push that pile back. You got to drive it back. I felt like in the 4-minute drill on offense, like we were pushing the pile one way. And I thought even in the goal line stand, we were holding our ground right there and pushing the pile. It's just a mindset, that, we got to go win this game. And to get 2 stops inside the 5 yard line in this game was the huge difference.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you talked about Caleb and his intelligence, taking meetings to the field and all that. I think some people just look at the stats and say he's not having the year he had at Alabama last season, and understanding it's a different defense. But does Saturday show exactly what you're talking about, where he's taking away a guy like Tyler Warren? He's making plays. It's kind of the culmination of things with him.
Yeah. No, he's all over the field. He's having a huge impact on our defense, and they had some huge tackles in the game, some huge plays in the game, and he's a huge part of our defense. Yep.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Ryan, you mentioned that shot to Jeremiah that was just fractionally off. There was another to Carnell.
Yeah.
I think the first blush instinct is always to just look at the quarterback. When you evaluated those 2 plays, what could be done, not just by Will maybe, to execute those?
Carnell did a great job off the line of scrimmage, got behind the defense. The cornerback slipped a little bit, and there really wasn't anybody there. And Will in that moment, just needs to keep the ball a little bit more inside. And Carnell made a great catch, but kind of landed out of bounds. And then on the second one, I think Jeremiah felt like, the safeties were so deep that the ball wasn't coming his way. And we tell Will, if he's anywhere near the depth of the safety, just launch it as far as you can. That's what happened. So he just has to stay with it. And But you're right. I mean, those are two missed opportunities that could have been much different.
You referenced that earlier, like there were pros and cons, like
Yes.
that you could have not been in that game. Those are the ones you're thinking about, the turnovers. Like the conversation with Will, then, if these are 4 opportunities that change things. That's it.
That's it. I mean, that's why, execution, we got to be efficient. We got to execute. I think the mentality and the physicality and the toughness was all there on Saturday. That's it. And in the end, that's what won the game. And so that's good. But, it doesn't need to be that way if we're executing better and cleaner and taking care of the football and those things. So you can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. So looking to combine all those as we head into the back half of the season.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Follow up on Tegra from earlier. Do you feel like he's, firmly that starting right guard for you guys at this point, or are you still looking at mixing Austin in there?
Yeah. No, I mean, Austin's ready to go, and he would get some reps, but Tegra's our right guard right now.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, at times Justin Fry's taking some heat the last couple of seasons. Just how validating to see the way the line played on Saturday. I know it's just one game, but for him, for Justin, how validating was that? And for you, for trusting in the process here?
Yeah, I mean, a big step in the right direction for sure. And if we can keep building on this, then yeah, that'd be a heck of a deal. And I think, it's staying after it and being resilient, and that's what it's going to take, And I think now, there's a confidence coming out of it. Like, okay, we just did this. This is who we can be. But it's no good if we don't do it again this week.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Another question about Will. I know what you like about him. There are a lot of things to like about him, but you also talked about the things that went wrong against Penn State. This team is obviously loaded. How confident are you that he is the quarterback who can take you to the championship level?
Yeah, I think what you saw at the end of the game, made a difference in finishing this game. We hadn't really finished a game like this in a while, but having his legs, having his physicality and all that made a big difference in this one. So we know, how capable he is in a lot of different areas, and he is the leader of this team, and the guys believe in him, and we know we can win every game with Will Howard, and so I think the more and more he's in this offense, the more and more he feels what it's like to be the Ohio State quarterback, the better. But at the end of the day, it's about winning the game, and he did that, and he's a winner. So, again, a lot to come out of the game, a lot to learn from, and we have to play cleaner. But, we love his fire, we love his competitiveness, we love his composure. The guys believe in him, and he can make a lot of throws.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, what is Zen's status if he does return this week, next week, future time? How does that prompt you to just evaluate your left side of the
Yeah,
line?
we'll see. Yeah, right now we're going to stick with what we have. If Zen were to become available, then that would give us more options. I don't think he'll be available this week. He is getting better, so we'll kind of see how he is and have an update later in the week. But I think right now the focus will be to stick with what we got right now, because we feel like there was good synergy coming out of that game.
And final questions, Tim May. I got you, Stephen. Tim May, Letterman Row.
You want him to go next?
No.
Okay. Hey, Ryan, was there a drive? Obviously, the last drive was guttural to the nth degree, but was there a drive Saturday where you looked out there and go, "This is what I envisioned when I brought in Chip Kelly and Will Howard, et cetera," where you just felt like things were under control, so to speak? It was kind of what you envisioned this offense being about.
Yeah, I would say the responses after the interception, we kind of went out there without, any hesitation and just started rolling pretty good. And the combination of run, pass, and play action and all that was really what we're looking for. And I think the perimeter blocking, has got to be better. That we left a lot on the field because of some of those perimeter blocks, and so we're going to work hard to get that fixed. But yeah, I think the response that we had after the interception for a touchdown, there was just a confidence level that I think had an effect on the whole entire game, really, to respond like that. And then the other drive, we got down there and threw the touchdown to Brandon Ennis. I mean, there was good run pass mix there. I do think if we connected on a couple of those shots, because that still has to be a part of our game, then you feel a little bit different coming out. Obviously, the ball coming out on the 1 yard line, that was a good drive as well. I mean, the block that Travion had, no one's going to talk about that because we fumbled on a play, but man, it was a great play. So I think there was good run pass, and we were efficient, enough to win the game. but we need to be more efficient.
To see those guys, like you said, Quinshon and Travion selling out,
Yeah.
I mean, that just tells you everybody gets it. Well,
Well, that's the mentality. Yeah, the mentality was right in the game, and it's got to be continue to be. That's what we got to start every week. That's the mentality. But you want the scoreboard to look different, then execute better. Yeah.
And final question, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just given where the depth is right now, where are George and Ian more in terms of their level of development right now? If something else were to happen at tackle?
Yeah. I mean, they're ready. They're working hard. They're getting the reps in practice, and they got to stand ready. They got to, and then sometimes it's not always easy to be that guy who's one snap away but hasn't really been in the game much. So, if it's appropriate, we'll try to get them in the game to get them, some game reps. But they need to keep coming. They need to get the reps in practice and be prepared, because you just never know how it's going to shake.
And you were talking about this on the radio show yesterday. Who communicated to you guys that Abdul was clearly trying to figure out your guys' snap count that made you guys want to switch some things up there, and you called him when he?
Oh, no, there was nothing like in terms of communication. It just he's a great player who tries to get a jump on the ball. You could see that on film. And so, we came over, there's a timeout, and we just said, in this third down, there's an opportunity to get maybe, a free one here. And so, we don't typically use a bunch of cadences when it comes to silent count, but the guys were disciplined enough to use the double head bob, and that was enough to get a first down, which turned out to be pretty big. And anytime you get those first downs like that, it was big. But we had everybody over on the sideline, and we communicated that to Seth, and Seth was great, and the guys, hung in there on it, and it was a big play for us. Yeah.
Coach, thank you very much.
Wow, Dustin's off, huh? R.I.P. to Dustin. Dustin Simonovic, man. I kind of like having you listed on this. No, as always, appreciate you guys joining us. Some housekeeping things. One, man, what about Derek Queen, right? What a great start. Congrats to Coach Willard, the basketball programs, for starting and kicking off their season, which takes a little bit of emphasis off of the old football program, which is a good thing. Obviously, Derek Queen, great start. I'm looking forward to getting over to see both those programs play. Obviously, today, incredibly significant day for our country, and as some of you guys probably saw in the article, we've had 100% voters registration with our team, and we also worked on educating our players on how to vote, how to do research, credible research on candidates. And this is something that's really important to me, and that I'm really proud of our team for accomplishing this. As young men, I want our players to know how necessary and important their voices are. And, I want them to understand the power of showing up and making themselves heard, whether it's through voting, but this also kind of segues into wanting them to show up and make themselves heard this Saturday when we go to Eugene, Oregon. Every single player, every coach, every person that's a part of our program, all are 1,000% locked in on the task of going to Eugene and having an opportunity to play the best team in the country, in my opinion, having a chance to watch, including some of the guys that missed the Minnesota game. So to be able to have some guys, healthy bodies back, the last week has been a good week for us in terms of being healthy, being able to practice, to continue to develop our team. We know how tough it's going to be to go on the road and play the number one team in the country, but I promise you this, nobody in Jones Hill House is concerned about getting on a plane to go play. I mean, we have a good football team still. I feel pretty confident that this team will show up and be heard. Oregon is one of those teams that's talented in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. This team is immature at times, and just, as I like to say, just dumb enough to show up and play up to the opponent. And Oregon is one of those teams that, as I've seen this team do the last few years, they have a tendency to play up. And as I told them, we don't necessarily have to play above our abilities, because we do have talent, we have skill that matches up. But what we've got to do is play smart. we've got to go out, play together, and then we've got to execute, because it's going to come down to execution in terms of the players making plays. And I know they'll play to the last second, as we've done in all of our games. So the game captains for this week going out to Eugene, Tommy Akingba-Sote, Roman Hemby, Dante Trader, and Rex Fleming will represent us as captains. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you guys have.
Hey, Mike, how much of a distraction, or is it, when there's a number one in front of the opponent you're playing, and is there any danger of making the game maybe bigger than in what it is this one game?
Not at all. It's our next game. I mean, this league has had a lot of number one teams in the country over the course of the season. It's a good league, and so the number in front doesn't. I mean, we don't emphasize that. I mean, we watch the tape. They're a good team. They're good in all three phases. They're well coached. Again, from the same family tree. So as I told our staff, you know what, they prepare the way we do. They have some of the same recipes of how to prepare and organize their programs, and very similar to what we have. And so it's not going to come down to out scheming them. It's going to come down to players making plays and us putting them in the best positions to make those plays.
Do you tell players to kind of stay off social media and not watch the sports shows? Everyone's saying how great Oregon is, and
I don't, because I don't watch it. And I mean, I think our guys understand. The only thing that matters is what we think. And I mean, this generation is a lot more savvy, maybe because they're used to social media. They're used to. I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I thought that they would not look at it or have. I mean, you pick up your phone, and the way these phones work, things just pop up. If I'm thinking about something, all of a sudden, you know, how to deal with the media. The next thing you know, I got 6 reels on how to deal with the media popping up on my timeline. So it'd be foolish to think that they don't, but it's not something that we coach, because the way we prepare is we don't let outside noise or distract us. We got to focus on the things we can control.
Mike, traveling 3 time zones away, the logistics involved with making it not an issue as far as making sure everything goes as planned.
I can tell you the truck just got through Nebraska, our truck with all of our equipment safely through Nebraska, so should be reaching Oregon sometime tomorrow, I think, is what I heard today. No, I mean, it's obviously new to us, but it's, you know, with anything, we try to rehearse, you do the research, you try to figure out the best way to have your team prepared, and I think we think we're not doing anything that's other teams haven't done doing the research. We're leaving a day earlier than we typically do to give us a little time to acclimate out there to the time zone differences. So we'll get there Thursday to practice, and then use Friday for meetings and just acclimate, and then we'll have a Friday walk like we typically do, and then play the game at 7:00 p.m.
Also, Dylan Gabriel's made quite a splash out there. How does he differ from some of the other guys you have faced?
He makes them go,
he put on
man.
your secondary?
He makes them go, and he's a really talented player. I swear he's been there for 10 years. It seems like I've heard his name for 10 years in college football, and the kid, all the kid does is just make plays, whether he extends it in the pocket. He is the guy that makes it go. You think, the compliment to him is the powerful running game, and you know what? This is the first group of running backs where, these guys make the run game go. Typically, the O-line make it go, but these guys, these 2 running backs are both power, downhill, attack, the line of scrimmage kind of guys, and I think their big boys feed off of their style of play. And so, you put a big-time quarterback that has the ability to extend plays in the pocket with a strong run game. And then, I know their defense very well. Tosh Lupoy and I worked together at Bama. Tosh is an unbelievable coach. I was a coordinator on offense, and he coordinated on defense. So I know Dan Lanning's input on the defense. He spent time at Georgia, and obviously we played against Georgia when I was there at Bama every year. So a lot of familiarities going into the game. The talented team, I feel good about our team showing up and being heard. So excited about this opportunity.
Hey, Coach. Know you had talked about the Big Ten initiative you went to in Alabama.
Get your camera like that.
Recording today. Big Ten initiative in Alabama, and then the voting, obviously, is a very cool thing. What is this election, why do you think you took such drastic strides this year? Or is it just you would do this in any year?
I didn't just do it this year. We did it in 2020.
Do you think that, this year with everything going on, it even adds to the kind of importance of it, or?
Not really. I just think I'm a solution-based guy, whether you believe it or not. And when 2020 hit, our players spoke. I have a leadership council still to this day, and I use them to figure out, what things we can do as a program that adds value to their life outside of just NIL, and this is one of them. I mean, I know I didn't take advantage of the opportunity to vote until very late in my, early adult years. And I wanted to educate our guys that don't sit around and just complain about problems, man. Like, we all complain too much. Well, get out and do something about it. Get out and vote. Every vote counts, and I don't care who you vote for.
And then on the football side, Oregon obviously one of the best passing offenses in the Big Ten. You talked about Gabriel. How much is a pass rush for you points? Their offensive line.
I mean, they protect him well because he manipulates the pocket. If you want to watch tape of how you manage a pocket, because he doesn't need a lot of space to throw, and so they do a good job of protecting him. But he also is really crafty inside the pocket area, which allows him to extend plays. And I don't care how good a coverage or how much pass rush you have. If the quarterback has extra time to throw, it's not a great recipe for defensive backs. And so, we're going to need to have the ability to contain them. And get after them some, but I think the ebb and flow of pressure and coverage is what typically gives quarterbacks problems. When you just do one thing, they adjust to it, they max protect, and now they create time. So I just think we're going to have to be able to do both, cover and contain them and rush.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
What's up, G?
You had the unique opportunity this season with 2 bye weeks, one just a month ago. Coming out of this one, is there anything that you guys did differently from a month ago?
We did. We practiced. We didn't have a Monday. Our Mondays typically are light days. Well, we put in most of the game plan. Typically, we put in most of it. Last week, we put every phase of our game plan in. We came back in Sunday, added the Michigan data to our game plan analysis, and confirmed whether or not these things we worked on a week ago. So basically, we've had 2 go runs of our 4-day cycle to prepare. Typically we would come in on a Monday, have a lighter practice, and then just Tuesday, Wednesday. But we actually are going to have 8 full days to prepare. And the biggest piece for us is just getting some of those bodies that we missed against Minnesota. Those guys are healthy finally, and to be able to add the depth back to our team, which allows us to practice the way we need to practice.
Hey, Coach.
What's up, big man?
What's up? Slow starts this season have been relatively common. From a coaching perspective, what is the recipe to avoid getting off the slow starts? Is it preparation?
Now, you checked your stats, because, is it slow start every game we've had one? I don't know that.
Yeah, it's been.
So which stats did you have?
You guys have trailed, I believe, by the trail.
Okay. So the slow start isn't necessarily the first drive or the first. You're talking about being down at the half. Yeah.
So just kind of getting off to a slow start. Just what, from a coaching perspective, is it based on preparation, execution, a little bit of both? Just
all of the above. All of the above. I mean, how do you get your quarterback going quicker? Defensively, how do we get off the field on third down? Did we get the right call? I mean, there's no one secret answer to starting fast other than execution. This is an execution sport. You want to start fast, block the guys you're supposed to block, be in the gaps you're supposed to be in, cover the man you're supposed to cover. Those are execution things.
And then you've talked a couple times this season about making sure your team doesn't look at the scoreboard throughout the game. Is there kind of a mental challenge, because these are college kids, these aren't professional athletes, and making sure they stay focused?
You have to ask them. I typically, that's part of our deal. The scoreboard creates anxiety, and so I try to teach guys things going into it that, when you look at that scoreboard, it creates either you to feel really good about, hey, we're up, or start pressing, man, we're down. And so to me, the key to having success, it's the turtle race. It's just persevering through the tough times, or whether it's a slow start or a fast start. Just keep persevering, keep taking the next step, stay focused on the task at hand. And the more you can teach 18 to 22-year-old males with all this testosterone running through them to do that, the better society will be, the better our community will be.
Coach, here in the back on the camera. With all this cross-country travel, can imagine some of the athletes are missing some class time. Some of their families may not be able to get all the way out there to Oregon. Tell me how you as a coach and a staff are preparing for some of those academic and personal challenges.
I think the big thing, so we are traveling our academic counselors to this game with us, because this is a crunch time for us, and this is unique for football. I know this happens in basketball all the time with the Tuesday, Thursday type games that they play. So our academic people are used to it. A lot of these classes our guys take are either online, but because we are traveling a day early, they're given the ability to either make up the work or get it done early. And our players understand, what it takes, and they are still student athletes. And, we will travel our academic counselors to help for guys as we sit around the hotel on Friday, and then Thursday evening we'll have some study hall opportunities for our players and to kind of get things accomplished during the day.
And personally, what about having their families not being able to go all the way out to Oregon?
Yeah, those are the decisions. Those are tough decisions that families have to make, and this is where, thank goodness for NIL, because I know some kids' families are able, and I know this. Most of the families on our team have the ability to make it if they desire to make it. It's a tough trip. It's a long trip for anybody that's from this area that they're recruiting. It's really long trip to go way out to Oregon from Maryland, D.C.
Mike, what have the conversations been with Billy heading into this game, given his 4 interceptions in the last 3 years? Is that even a concern for you?
It's not a concern because, you can count the interceptions, you can count slow starts, but if you watch the tape, he got hit in the chest, and the interception would have been a touchdown possibly. But if a if was a fifth, we'd be drunk too. So I would just say that, we're preparing Billy like we've done when he was one of the leading passers in the country. These are growing pains. He's in his 8th or 9th start, I think, as a starter. Every game he plays is filling his toolbox up with experiences that will benefit us.
Have you talked with Drew Hampton, who's your guys' football operations, about the challenges that, I know you said the truck left early. What has he told you? Have you guys conversed about it?
So Annie Papard, our football operations, she's trains, planes, automobiles, and I'm gonna just tell you, she knows I don't like working ahead. I don't know if y'all heard, I had a a snafu a couple weeks ago, and I was like, we're heading to Oregon or something after a game, and it's because she was talking to me about the Oregon trip. So her job is to have it. Annie is the best in the business at it. Whether it's setting us up for bowls, and luckily for us, having gone to bowls the last 3 years, we know how to pack the right way and set up shop. We'll be there for a couple of days, obviously, but the job Annie does, the logistics involved, all the people that are involved, but Annie Papard runs that piece. Drew's responsible for the helmets and shoulder pads showing up, which, Annie organizes it, but Drew is best in business when it comes to the equipment as well. So great staff, man, 1,000% logged in. I don't think it's going to be no more. Listen, you got me up here a long time, boy. Where's Dustin at?
Hey, Coach. The guy I spoke to you about at the beginning of the season really had a good game last week, DJ Samuels.
He had a good game? What? Oh, because he scored a touchdown? All right, he did. He likes football, but he's a football player.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So, did you go to school with him or something? Because you had a love affair with him.
He's from a school very close to them.
I figured.
Bergen Catholic, so.
No, DJ is a football player, and anybody that's coached in if you know Bergen Catholic is they do a tremendous job of developing players, a big time program, very similar to a couple of the ones that are around here. And I've always said DJ loves football. I just got to get DJ to do all the other things the right way. So he's working and maturing, and I see him. He's a football player that you'll start to see. I think as he matures, you'll see his football become even more important.
And just what are those like early things he's done so far to earn a bigger role?
I mean, we playing him on both sides of the ball. He caught a touchdown as a fullback. He's a versatile guy. He likes contact. I mean, a lot of guys don't like contact that play football. Just so you know, some people don't like contact. He's not one of those guys. He plays with bend, he plays with power. Not the tallest, not the biggest, not the fastest, but something about football players. I got another guy, Judah Jenkins, is very similar to him. There's some traits about football players, and they usually are guys that like the physicality that comes with it, and DJ's one of them.
Mike, Oregon's defense, their pass rush, I think third in the Big Ten in sacks. What sort of challenges will that provide your offense?
I mean, Taj does a really good job. The big key is staying out of the third down situations, be honest, because if you look at their disruptive or havoc rate, the third down package that he has, his background, NFL background, once he left Bama, understanding, we got to stay out of the third downs and third and longs against this team, which means we got to be efficient on first and second down. But their front seven is the strength of their defense, and they, number one, I know he played 30 plays. Birch played 30 plays last game and is working back from injury, and he's a big disruptor. And a couple of the interior guys, really disruptive. Both interior linebackers are guys that are pass rushers, have the ability to bring extra. They bring extra people, and it's going to be a challenge. Thanks, guys.
Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Monday. Good day of preparation. Right in the middle of it right now for us. Reviewed the game yesterday. Reviewed the game with the team, and then had a little bit of extra meeting time last night. Didn't go out on the field last night. And then tomorrow we'll get after it on the field, and then we'll fly out Friday morning to State College. But excited about the way we played. Thought we had our best game in all three phases. We made all of our kicks. We had a 50-yard return. Defensively, we had another goal line stand. And offensively, we're 4 for 4 in the red zone. So in all those phases that we've worked on and talked about, it was good to see it all come together.
Which of those three phases do you feel like still has the most to go before it gets where you want it to be?
All three. I really don't think there's one that has – I don't think any of them are where we want it to be just yet. We go up 26-21 and then have an 8.5-minute drive that takes them down to the 1, and then we have a goal line stand. So the goal line stand's great. The 8.5-minute drive is tough. Offensively, we have a situation where, it's 20-7 and we have the ball to start the half. You'd like nothing more to go out and go up 27-7. Special teams-wise, we gave them the ball inside the 50 the first two possessions of the game. The first kickoff, they returned it, I think, to like the 42 or something. And then the second, then the first punt of the game, they returned to the 35. So we have a lot of room to grow in all three phases. I do believe that we're continuing to get better in all three phases. We're showing signs of improvement. And I do believe just as we are building this program to where we want it to be, the goal would be, of course, next year at this time to be better on offense, better on special teams, and better on defense.
First time you've seen a top 30 passing offense all year long, and defense held up. Is that maybe the best defensive performance of the year, you think, and when you consider the context?
Well, when you go against USC's offense and you hold them to 21 points, that's a huge win, right? Annually, they're always an elite throwing team. Lincoln's going to always have a good passing attack. And with all those skill players they have all over the field, I thought our defense did a really, really good job of keeping the points down. And really, they were able to run the ball in the third quarter. But outside of a couple drives there, I thought that overall our defense performed exceptionally well.
How do you feel Khalid did in his first start at left tackle?
I thought he did well. I thought Khalid did a good job. When you look at our one of their goals for the week last week was to make sure to eliminate negative plays with all of the pressure package that USC brings. And we ended up having out of 73 snaps, only 4 plays that were negative, and we had 0 sacks. So to stand in there and to have that type of night for Kali and for the offensive line, I think guard and Enoch did a really good job of helping Kali in communication. I think Kali did a nice job in protection.
Start again Saturday?
I expect him to, yes.
So Max McCree was suited up and had a cast or a brace on. Was he available? Will he be available?
He is available. It's just hard to play with a cast and brace, but he's cleared medically to play. You're just not going to be able to accomplish everything you want to accomplish when you're wearing a cast, and he'll be in that hand cast the rest of the year. So it'll be a matter of he's certainly available for emergency situations, but right now I don't imagine him this week any change in who's starting.
When you took over this team, how long did it take you to realize that Kamari House was ahead of schedule, and what's his best attribute? Is it his foot speed?
With Kamari, we knew about Kamari when we were at Arizona, so we were aware of his high school tape, and we had guys from Bosco on our team there, and obviously we recruited that whole Trinity League, except with T Mac and Noah and all those guys at Servite, and then the Modern Day guys and the Bosco guys. So we knew Kamari. We've seen Kamari play live. We knew that I would say his best trait is his instincts, that he's so quick to diagnose plays that then he can be explosive because he's fast. You could clearly see that on the last play on the goal line, right? It was instinctively he was able to diagnose a play and then find an open gap that he could rush through. It probably throughout spring ball, you started seeing the energy and the passion that he played with. And then in training camp is when I would say we started deciding as a staff that let's not be afraid to throw in a true freshman in the games, and kind of like we did with Jacob Manu back at Arizona.
When we've seen Landon Hatchett play left guard throughout the season, center as well. What went into the thought process to move him to the right side, and then how do you feel he did?
Yeah, I thought he had a really nice game overall. We felt that, our goal is each week to try to put together the best offensive line that we can, and a lot of it has to do with the health of every player up front. And we didn't feel like Enoch, was able to go 70 plays at right guard physically, just based on where he was at. So we felt like Landon would be the right person to land there. Guard was playing well at left guard. And we didn't want to make a change at center. D'Lo's doing a really good job there. So we felt like we put Landon there, and then we let Enoch rotate through. So I think Enoch had 2 or 3, maybe 4 series at guard, but him and really guard Memelar did more of the rotating, and Landon had his best game and probably the game that he played the most amount of reps.
What did you see on the illegal sub call procedure-wise that you want to kind of clean up to avoid that down the road?
I didn't have to see anything on it. It was just we called the play that there was a miscommunication on the personnel group that we were running the play out of, and we received a play, and one group thought it was a 2 tight end play, and they both went out. So glad that didn't affect the outcome of the game.
You'd said on your radio show, I think, that Quentin Moore won't be back this year. Are you looking at it as a sure thing that he'll be back next season with the red shirt waiver or whatever he needs to do?
Well, I don't think there's any sure thing in college football these days, but as close to a sure thing. It was as the injury as the weeks progressed, and his injury was what it was, that he hasn't been medically cleared to play yet. So it's week 10 now, and he's still not medically cleared. So I think if that continues through the 12 weeks and he's not medically cleared, which I don't think he will be, from what I've been told, then he only had, I think it would be 11 plays, 12 plays. I think it happened, within the first 15, 20 plays of the game. Don't quote me on that, but I think it did. And if that was the case, then I feel pretty confident that they don't like to take a person's year away with an injury that happened so early in the season.
But that's definitely what he wants to do and everything. Like he wants to come back.
Yeah, that's all indications.
Jonah had a career-high carries, 23. Was that kind of the sense going in that could happen, or was that just the way things kind of developed, you think?
No, we had a sense of that. We talked about after the bye week, we felt like Jonah was getting fresher and fresher. We felt we needed that bye week for Jonah to get back to as healthy as he can be in the season. And with that being the case, we played Indiana. I think he had 19 carries. And then with SC 23. So he's had, I think, back-to-back the two most amount of carries he's had. It's just really based upon the volume that he could handle. And there was some games early in the season where he had 11, someone else had 7, someone else had 5, someone else had 4. But we felt as if, where Jonah was physically, where he's at right now, overall, how he's feeling, that he could handle all 20 carries. And then, of course, at the end of the game, our goal is about 20 carries. He had 58 plays in the game. So not just the carries, but in pass game. I know he only had 2 catches for 17 yards, but overall, he had a 58-play game. So that's a pretty substantial amount of reps for a running back. But in the fourth quarter, at the end of the game, I just wanted to make sure that he was in there.
You've obviously, you've spoken about Jeremiah Hunter and his targets before. Are you surprised 9 games in that he only has 25 catches? And is there anything you see now that there is maybe a larger sample of your offense of why the ball hasn't gone his way as much as other guys?
No, I don't think it's anything particularly that I've seen. Rashid is playing more. We're in 12 personnel, and Giles is playing more, so he's not. So Denzel is probably playing, let's call it, not twice as many, but a little bit more than 35%, more reps than probably Jeremiah's in. I'd say Giles is probably the same, in terms of percentage of reps, as Giles and Jeremiah and Rashid are all splitting reps at the different personnel groups at Z. So his opportunities are less. On the same token, I think we've tried to get him the ball at times, and times we have been able to, times we haven't. Times I think he got targeted last week, but also we're throwing the ball about 35 times a game, and when you're throwing it 35 times a game, and Denzel had 9 catches last week, and Kalecki's stepping up at tight end, and Giles is stepping up at F, and it just is working that, it's just kind of going that way. And I've been in teams that, Brandon Marshall had 120 catches and Eddie Royal had 91, and Brandon Stokely had 45 that year. And then another year with Allen Robinson and Alan Hearns and Marquise Lee, all 3 of them had over 50. Last year at Arizona, I think T-Mac and Jacob Cowling both had over 90. And then the Z receiver that year had 30 or so. But the year before with Dorian Singer, he had 67. And T-Mac had 45. So it is what it is in terms of, we don't run the air raid. So we throw it 35 times a game. When you throw it 35 times a game, there's going to be just different guys on different nights getting more catches and less catches.
What are you doing to prepare for 100,000 people watching your football game? I think only a handful of guys on your roster has ever seen anything like that, with the exception of maybe Giles Jackson, who used to be part of it. Does that have a concern for you?
No, it doesn't have a concern. I'm not concerned about it. I think I showed the guys what it looks like a little bit on Sunday night. I showed them some clips of playing at Penn State at the whiteout. We did it when I was at Michigan. We played in the whiteout game in 2016, I think it was 2015 was the whiteout game. Was that 21-7 or something like that? 28-16 was the final there. And so we did that in 2015, talked about that a little bit, talked to him about, showed him some clips of just the energy and the passion that to expect. But on the same token, we've had really great crowds. Every game we've played this year, Iowa was sold out, Indiana was sold out. So, yeah, it's going to be a sellout with double the amount of people as those groups. But in the same token, we just got to go play ball and try to see if we could play the best game we've played all year.
Jonas said at Big Ten Media Day that you guys requested the night out. You asked for the night out. I'm not sure if that's technically true or not, but just speaking to kind of the...
Jonah said that?
Jonah Coleman, yeah.
Is he a part of that meeting? I don't know. Maybe Jonah did, but we were not a part of that meeting, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, but just did you notice an emphasis in terms of like playing a night game? Did that draw out extra emotions having coached in that game before?
I think playing the night game is, it's going to be a fantastic experience. Like if you don't, you got to love football. It's Saturday night and whiteout, and it's going to be 110, 111,000. I think they had last Saturday. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere, right? There's no question about it. And I think that it's going to be a blast for our guys. You got to deal with the initial wave of just the energy and momentum, as do people when they come and play us, right? And next Friday night when we're back at home, we need to match that energy and excitement. It's going to be the last game our guys play, right? Senior night, last time Zoe's on the field, last time Bruner's on the field. We need the same energy and excitement. We'll just have 30,000 less people at it, but we'll sell it out just the same. For our guys, I think that they are excited about it. I think you've got to embrace it and love it. And I'm not sure how different it's going to be between the Ohio State-Penn State game and the Penn State-Washington game in terms of how loud the crowd will get. I know they'll be loud. And I know we've got to be ready for that. We've got our speaker system that we bring in for practice when we go on the road. We amp it up. We go as loud as we can go. We've been a lot better since the Washington State game when it comes to our ability to communicate. And year one in the Big Ten, man. Four games, 3 on the East Coast and 1 in Central Time Zone. So, it's certainly been a lot of travel, a new experience, and new opponents, and our guys are excited about it.
Do you think it'll feel more normal, though, given that you are leaving on Friday, which is maybe more traditional for a road game? It's at 5 p.m. Pacific and those sort of things.
Yeah, I think the timing helps. It's kind of the same time as we played Michigan, same time we played SC here, 4:45, 5 o'clock, whatever. Same time as we played Rutgers, right? So we left the day before for the Rutgers game. We played that Friday night at 8 o'clock. So, but this is a normal week, right? Rutgers week, we still had to leave on a Thursday because it was a Friday night game. This, we're able to have a normal Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then as soon as our normal Friday ends, which is at 10 a.m., we'll go get on the plane and fly. So this trip truly is almost an identical trip to any other road trip we would, although we haven't had any other road trips that we would have if we were still playing the other conference. And when we go against Oregon, it'll be the only difference will be when we play Oregon, we'll leave at 3 p.m. instead of 10 a.m., but the schedule will be exactly the same sans Thanksgiving.
I know Franklin, before the USC game, when they came west, was not complaining, but just acknowledging that they had to drive to Harrisburg to fly out. Yeah. Are you guys doing the same thing? Going out
to fly out.
Yeah.
We're flying into State College, but we have to fly out of Harrisburg. So when the game's over, I think it's like an hour and 20-minute drive. So it'll be a long night with a short week because we play Friday. We'll have to, let's call it the game over at 11:30 or so, and then by the time we probably board the plane, it would be around 2, and then we'll play Friday.
Coach, every time this University of Washington travels to a place with a grass field, it always comes up, and the record hasn't been great. You don't have one to practice on. Yeah. Is it a deal?
I heard that. I heard that that's been a topic here in the past about, we don't have a grass field. So we don't have a grass field. And we just got to go play and figure it out. But there's nothing we can do about it. And we're going right now. So we'll just continue to prepare. We'll be mentally tough enough not to make an excuse about grass versus turf. And we'll do everything we possibly can to execute the best we can. There's about 3 teams in the Big Ten that play on grass. I believe it is. I think it's, UCLA, USC, and then Northwestern and Penn State. I don't know if Northwestern's new stadium will be grass. So, we just got to work it out.
Do you do anything different equipment-wise? Pack extra shoes?
Yeah, we'll pack longer cleats and all the, longer spikes and the grass spikes and some of the things that you would normally do. It looks right now that it won't be raining, so I don't think it'll be as slick of a field as, call it, when Illinois played them earlier in the season where it was raining. But, we just can't make it a part of the conversation, honestly. We have to focus on, being great at the little things, the fundamentals, all of the parts of the program that we're still trying to build and create and see how good we can get.
Ever since the Dempsey indoor was built, every coach that stood there has been asked about a grass field. Do you want one?
I mean, yeah, I don't know where it'd go. I don't. I would love one, but I mean, it's not for me. There are certain things that I focus much more on, and I'm much more in terms of how can we make this building the best building? How can we have a great recovery room? How can we have a great locker room? How can we have great nutrition? Right? How can we make sure that we continue to provide for our players with a great players lounge? More for me, I'm more along the lines of what can we do facility-wise within this structure that our players can immediately feel impact on. The grass field, while nice, don't get me wrong, I feel as if there's other things right now that are a priority where I know other head coaches felt differently.
You got Russell Davis on the field finally on Saturday. How did he do, and what do you look for him going forward?
He'll be good to go now because of the redshirt rule. We've got 4 games, and the postseason doesn't count any longer. So we'll be able to go with Russell Davis the rest of the year, and still have him still be able to get this year for him to continue to get back, I should say. I think his pass rush, you could see he gave some, he wore out that tackle a little bit at times. And then Lance came in there at the end, but the two of them, I gave Russell a little bit of an assist on that sack because of the amount of great efforts that Russell gave in pass rush. He'll continue to improve. He's gained about 20 pounds. He's at 234 right now. Came in here at 214 and 212, I think, and actually came into college at 190. So in 3 years, he's up 44 pounds. He'll help us.
So when he was dressed for some of these games, he was just redshirting, but wearing the uniform just the same, right?
Yeah, just like, anybody, the redshirting rule doesn't go into effect until the season's over. You don't know. You then determine who's redshirted or not. Now, if you don't play anybody for the first 8 games of the year, then that's their redshirt. And then they get 4 games. So you can go games 1 through 4. You can go games 1, 3, 9, 11. Doesn't matter. You get 4 games prior to being redshirted.
You could have played him is the question. He just decided,
let's
save the red shirt.
He wasn't healthy enough the first 7. And then 8 and 9, or what was it, 8? Yeah, he wasn't healthy the first 7. And then 8, he just came back from injury.
Expect Mikel Esteen to play this week?
What's that?
Mikel Esteen.
Yeah, I do expect Mikel to play.
You mentioned going 4 for 4 in the red zone against USC. Will Rogers said after the Indiana game that the problem was just drive stalling. I know being at home helps with communication too, but what else do you think helped you guys finish drives against USC?
Yeah, well, I still always frustrated. We've been 7 for 7 in the red zone the last 2 weeks, but the problem has been, we still had to play it. We were 3rd and 7, 4th and 7 on the 30-yard line. We didn't get in there. We had the possessions prior. We had the one time we kicked a field goal in the red zone this past week. We had a false start. So, I still want to clean up some of those. It is football, so not every time you get down there you're going to score, although it would be nice. Not every time you're going to get past the 40 you're going to score any points. USC felt that with our defense this past week. The first 2 drives of the game, I think Lincoln talked about that. But, we just got to continue to improve. Year 1, new program, new offense, new defense, new special teams, 11 new players on offense that weren't really participants at all. The system's new. What we're asking them to do is different. They're trying to all pick up a whole new scheme against all new opponents that there are no common opponents from a year ago until yesterday. So I think and then Wazoo week 3. So I think that our guys are beginning to understand, that what the expectation is. And I also feel as if it does take time to build it. And the more you're able to get the details right and your execution right in those situations of third down and red zone, those are the last ones to come together because those are the toughest ones.
You mentioned Russell Davis. It seemed like your pass rush was very effective even if they didn't register a sack. What did you like from them, and kind of how do you see them moving forward as the season goes on?
I thought Ward did a good job pass rushing. Thought Davis did a good job. Holtzclaw obviously came in the last play, did a good job. Void does a fantastic job. Jacob Lane, I don't know what, him and Deshaun Lynch, I don't think they had too many reps in this past game just based on the way the offense their offense plays. But we had a plan. We had a plan on how we wanted to rush them. And I think we executed that plan. And sometimes it just might be hits. Sometimes it might be forced turnovers. That was, we took the ball away. We had 3 interceptions. We had another dropped interception, which, could have put it at 4. We had, a chance to get a punch out because we had an extra guy in the coverage. So I think we rushed them well, and I think we were able to execute the plan we wanted to there. Okay. See you on Thursday. Thanks.
Afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here. And to that point, it's kind of weird. You got 3 games left. 2 of them are short week games. So the schedule's a little bit different than normal. And then, you got a bye week on top of it. So it's kind of interesting that way. Just go back, Wisconsin just a little bit and then talk about UCLA. Again, certainly happy to get the win. Thought it was really a solid performance by our team, and a great environment, and the crowd was really good, so we appreciate that, certainly. I think we had a good week of prep and really did a pretty good job in all 3 areas. Pleased for Caleb Johnson to be recognized for his effort and or efforts and all the guys that helped make that possible. So, really happy about that. And look at the tape Sunday. There's always things to get better at, things that we can get smoother at and clean up a little bit. So that's part of the task this week, as well as getting ready for our opponent. I think just to mention real quickly, I want to congratulate Jay Higgins on being a Buckus semifinalist. And Jay's just, as you all know, tremendous person, excellent leader, and obviously a very, very good football player. So got a couple of really good linebackers in this game, coincidentally. This week, short week for us, and certainly a tough challenge. Captains, we've got Jay Higgins and Quinn Schulte defensively, and you got Luke Lachey and then Logan Jones offensively. So those will be our 4 captains going into the game. Medically, not a lot of updates really. Luke, I think, has a chance. He's, practicing a little bit limited right now, but practicing, and we'll see how it goes this week. I think he's close, but, we have to plan to go without him, and the guys that stepped in and working in his spot have done a really nice job. So we'll just, see what the week looks like on that front. And then Cade will not make the game. He will not be ready to go. So hopefully during the bye week we can get him back and running a little bit. Otherwise, really pretty much things are status quo. UCLA, we look at them, we see a really impressive football team, and they're playing well right now. It's very clear. I think there are probably 3 key things you have to look at when you look at their team right now and their season thus far. In some ways, it's a little bit like when we played Washington, but first and foremost, they've got a new staff with a lot of new faces on it. So that's one thing, and then a fair amount of new players as well. Second thing is the schedule that they played or have played thus far. I know people talk about tough schedules, but they started out with an away trip to Hawaii, which is no piece of cake, and played midday out there. Then came back. They played Indiana, LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. So I think that's pretty steep challenge. 4 teams in the top 12, pretty impressive there. And then third thing, you look at what they've done the last three games out. They've really looked like a good football team, real close. Tough loss to Minnesota a couple of weeks ago. And then they've gone on the road and won twice very impressively at Rutgers and last week at Nebraska. And one thing that jumped out at me in both the last 2 games, the home team got 1 possession in the first quarter. Nebraska had 3 plays offense first quarter, and I think in the Rutgers series, I think they won 8 or 9, had 1 possession, 8 or 9 plays. But other than that, that's all they had the ball. So, UCLA went on the road and really controlled the ball in the first half in both those games. Did a really good job there. Going back to their staff, Coach Foster's a UCLA Bruin. Played there. and had an outstanding career, played in the NFL, and just spent most of his coaching career back at UCLA and is doing a really good job. Then it's kind of a contrast, if you will. Their defensive staff has got a collegiate background. Coordinator has been at UCLA a couple of years prior to that. Played up at Washington, coached and played up there. Has got a really good resume, and they're doing a good job. And then offensively, a real pro flavor with Eric Bieniemy, another really good running back, coaching the offense. And Juan Castillo is a longtime NFL line coach. His son Greg played for us, and Greg's with the Chiefs now, doing a great job in their personnel, college scouting. So, a little bit of a pro flavor, but a little bit of contrast. And then just overall, the quarterback's really playing well, doing a good job leading them. Defensively, they're extremely active, extremely aggressive, extremely athletic. And I mentioned the linebacker earlier, that number 49, Schlesinger. I think Schlesinger is how he pronounces it, but he's a good football player. I don't know his name exactly, but I know he can play, and you better have him accounted for each and every play. And the same thing on special teams. He's just a really active player, walk-on, as I understand it. And I tell you, he's active. He's really disruptive and good football player, but all their guys really go hard to the ball. So, it's pretty impressive. And then their special teams look to be really good in all phases. And they've settled in on their specialists. They went back and forth a little bit early, and but I think they're in a good place there. So, all in all, just, a tough football team to play against. And then the last thing, the venue obviously is, different and unique. I'd compare it, we went to Wrigley last year, a little bit of a different change of pace, from what we're used to, and certainly playing the Rose Bowl. It's a very historic venue, as all of you know, and it'll be interesting to be there for an away game and conference play. So that's pretty much it. And then last thing, just, our kid captain, we've got 9-year-old Natalie Mokel. She's from Ulwine. And she was born prematurely over at the Stead Family Hospital. And when she was born at 1 pound 5 ounces, if you can imagine, had a few surgeries in the first couple of weeks. Her blood system was needed some regulation, so they took care of that. Spent 4 months getting stronger, getting healthier, and then has come out and has had a few bumps in the road. But today she's a really healthy, active fourth grader, and I'm told she's a real enthusiast for dance, softball, volleyball. Mom's nickname for her is Spitfire, so it gives you a little bit of idea of who she is and what she is. So just again, a great story and a great example of the work that gets done across the street. So just happy that she's up and running, doing a great job, and we'll be honored to be thinking about her this weekend. So with that, I'll throw it out for questions.
Scott Docterman with The Athletic. I wanted to ask you about how this week has been condensed in the preparation and how it may be different. Is it any different at all from what you would experience, like, say, going to Maryland a few years ago, or is it just, hey, it's just another hour and 20 minutes in the air, and that's the only difference that you're running into?
Yeah, that's probably the best comparative, really, and it was different. Now you're going East Coast versus West Coast, but we're probably just, handling it pretty much the same as we did that trip. We didn't make a big deal of it. I told the team, when I was at Maine, we drove to Rutgers, whatever that was, 9 or 10 hours, which we split up going down, but coming back, it was a straight shot. So this is not, this is not exactly a big challenge that way. And, the weather probably be a little better too, but so we're just trying to minimize all that and just, it's another away game. It is a short week, and we've had, I think, 11 of those since 15. So, just is what it is, and kind of part of college football nowadays.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, Ethan Garbers, I don't think probably gets enough credit nationally for what he's been able to do with that offense. The running game hasn't been there this season. I guess what sort of stands out to you about his game and how he kind of has control of that offense and, quite frankly, has kind of done whatever he's wanted to do the past few weeks?
Yeah, he has. He's throwing the ball well, efficiently, and getting into a lot of different people, including the backs, and doing a good job there. And then last couple of weeks he's pulled it down and made some big runs too. So if you're not sound on what you do defensively, he's not afraid to do that. And I wouldn't describe him as a run primary quarterback, but he's a guy who can do that. And it's one more way you can get hurt defensively. And both in the last 2 wins, those were key plays.
Jedd Fisch, Des Moines Register. I'm guessing in 1981, if you hadn't before you realized kind of what the Rose Bowl meant to Iowa, Big Ten, 0 for 3 as a coach there, assistant head coach. But what would it mean, I guess, or what does this mean to you personally, and also just knowing that Iowa hasn't won inside the Rose Bowl in 66 years?
Yeah, we did really well there in the 50s, right? Really well. Good record. And then it's funny bringing that up because after our Washington game, I got a text, a very nice text from one of our good players from that team. And he says he still carries a little scar tissue from that day. I still remember a punt that went about 70 yards. Reggie punted about 70 yards, and we had the offensive line in those days covering the punt. So you can just imagine the visual, the gap between the ball and the wave coming to cover. You talk about bad football, but the other thing I remember about the Rose Bowl, me personally, is that had a chance on the two that I was there for as an assistant to be involved in a game where, two of the best coaches of my lifetime were on the other sideline, Don James, Washington, and Coach Donahue with UCLA. I think two of the better coaches, certainly in the last, whatever that is, 40 years. So, but yeah, we haven't had a good memory there. I haven't had one personally. And, it's not like we get there, that often, but when you do get there, you'd hope you could have something good come out of it. And the only parallel I can give you, we never won in Pittsburgh when I was in the NFL, my hometown. And, but at least we were able to change that, here. So maybe we can, break the streak here, hopefully.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. When there was you had an opening at offensive line coach a few years ago. Just what do you remember about what sort of stood out about George during that process and kind of made you feel confident in that hire?
He first and foremost, as you met, anytime we hire anybody, you want to talk to people that really know them and that have worked with them. And one of the guys I really have a ton of respect for in this profession actually worked with George at Illinois and basically mentored him. So he spoke very highly of George. And then it was really, we had breakfast when he came in. It was a Saturday morning, so we ate breakfast downtown and came in and started talking football. And it was like probably 5 minutes into the conversation where, I felt pretty good about things. And then coincidentally, Brock Speck told me the exact same thing when Brock hired him at Illinois State. He said 5 minutes into the interview, it was like, this is our guy. I've got a lot of respect for Brock. I have ever since, got back here 26 years ago when he was at Purdue and then certainly at Illinois State. So, and then, but there are a lot of things going to it. You got to get someone who you think is really competent at the coaching component of it, but also they've got to be people that are going to bring something to our staff, something different, unique, but also be team players. We ask our players to be, part of a team, and that's the same thing with the coaching staff, and I've seen it both ways. And it's just good to get guys that are really focused on moving the team forward. And that's George fits all those categories. He's a really good teacher, just a really good human being. Great family, and that's not a requisite, but it's, a sidecar, if you will, and a positive thing. So it's just, he's really done a great job. And I know out there he gets maligned a little bit. I guess that's after the quarterback, after the coordinator. But, offensive line coaches catch a lot of crap too. And doesn't seem to faze him. He just keeps working and keep coaching.
Hey, Kirk, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I talked with Xavier a little bit before this, and I know he had a bit of a rocky start to the season and then bounced back, had a career game. I think it was against Washington. Forgive me, I might be wrong there. But I guess, what have you seen from him? Because he said he's never really had a season like this. Being a five-star guy, I imagine he could kind of do whatever he wanted in high school, and now it was a bit of a dip to start, and now he's performing pretty well. So I guess, what have you seen from him through this season?
I don't feel badly for guys that are highly ranked, but I'll go back 26 years ago. Really, when I got here, there was somebody on our roster who was playing okay, but everywhere I'd go, they were asking. People would ask about how so and so doing, and when you come in with a lot of notoriety, it's not always fair, and I don't think he asked for it. It's just something that happened, and he had a really good career at Southeast Polk, obviously. But, it's an adjustment coming here, just like when you go to the NFL. If you're lucky enough to go there, that's a big adjustment. There's a lot to learn. And the unfairness part of it, and you can't change it. I understand that, and I'm not complaining about it. But it's just sometimes the expectations aren't realistic to, what a player has to do, and there's a lot to learn. And playing in the back end for us, especially those safety positions, a lot of communication, a lot of things those guys are responsible for. So it's not easy. And so, he's since he's been here, I want to say this, and I say this in a positive way. Not that all 5-stars have arrogance to them, but I mean, you would never know he was 5-star or no star. He's been the same guy every day since he's been here. Just a really humble, hardworking guy. Great person, positive attitude and everything you want in a player. So it's fun to see guys have success. And, Marshall Yonda stood back there last Friday talking to our guys about really being molded through failure, as a player. And, he experienced a lot. And he experienced a lot in the NFL, too, and ends up being whatever he was, 12-time Pro Bowl player. But the rest of the story was, it didn't just happen for him. He had to really work his way up through injury, being benched, disappointment, all that stuff. But he just kept working. And that's what you look for with any player. And so I'm happy for all our guys when they start to, when it starts becoming fun for them.
John Seppi, the Gazette. Hi, Kirk. With tight end Zach Ortworth, kind of what stood out to you about him over these last 2 years, and what was it about him that prepared him for kind of being thrown into the mix both of these years with injuries?
Yeah, I can't say what prepared him for it, but his recruitment's kind of interesting. Gary Kornfeld was a coach down there, retired last, I don't know how many years it's been now for Gary, but Gary was an assistant when I used to recruit down there in the 80s, so I've known him a long time. And he called, I don't know what year it would have been, maybe 10th grade or 11th grade for Zach, and just said, here's a guy you ought to keep an eye on. And he doesn't call very often. So we appreciated that. And, we were able to get in early with Zach, and our message resonated with he and his family. And, I can't say enough about him, the way he stepped in. He just plays. And it's not like he's not a 4'4" guy or a 270-pound guy, but he's a good football player. And he's mentally tough. He has to be because, he played last year as a freshman. This year, he's all of a sudden, he's carrying a heavy load. And doesn't seem to faze him at all. He's the same guy. He's been the same guy since he's been here, which I think is impressive. And I got to throw in Johnny Pascuzzi, and Hayden Large, too, because we got a couple pretty good players out right now. And nobody's talked about it. We're not making it a big deal, but those guys have really done a good job. And that's what you look for. That's what you hope you have on a team, where guys are ready to go in there and take advantage of opportunity. And so all those guys are doing a good job. Zach's been really impressive with what he's done so far.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Kirk, I know after last week's game you mentioned that you were a little bit surprised at just how dominant you were, again, in a rivalry like Iowa-Wisconsin. But just overall with the run game, you guys are first in the Big Ten in rushing yards. You're 10th overall in the country. Are you surprised in a way with how effective this run game has come together just over the course of the whole season?
Yes and no. The no part would be, I guess no part would be all those guys, but like the line, I thought we had the potential. I kind of suggested that back in August, that maybe, we're getting close to where we'd like to be. And we haven't been there. I've said that very openly for the last couple of years, and, it's a long litany of things, and it really doesn't matter at this point. But, the bottom line is these guys have, fought through injury. They've fought through the scar tissue that they got. When Yonda talked about being molded by failure, I think all those guys could have put their hand up. So, all the stuff that has happened, they just kept pushing. And, George kept encouraging them. And, we're starting to see them, I think, generate a little, maybe developing some confidence, true confidence in themselves. And they should, because they've worked hard. So that's helped. Our tight ends are doing a good job. Our receivers are doing a good job in the blocking game. And I'll go back to, when I was in the NFL, you watch in those days, it was the Broncos, and then pretty soon, Kansas City, those teams that ran the ball well, those receivers are doing a good job blocking. And then the other component is Caleb, and I think all our backs are running really well right now, but Caleb has clearly taken another step. Talking about Xavier a little while ago, it's year 3. And just in general terms, that seems to be where guys, really start to get traction. I'm fine if they get it sooner than that, but year 3 is kind of usually an area where guys start to really kind of figure out how to play and how to do things, not just on the field, but also off the field, and just, really the little things that make a difference in being successful. And Caleb has been extremely focused and just, playing outstanding football right now.
Kirk, John Sears, WHO-TV. It feels like maybe after that Michigan State game, things could have wobbled and gone the wrong direction, but the last 2 weeks, 40 points in each game. Have you seen like a renewed energy or confidence once things started rolling and got in your favor just a little bit?
Yeah, it's all about learning, and every season, every moment teaches you something typically. And the bottom line is, like, you know, the week wasn't good enough prior to Michigan State in retrospect, and certainly what we did in that game. You know, you're not going to win a lot of Big Ten games playing the way we played. It's just, it is what it is, you know, and we own that record or own that film. That's our film. And your film's your resume. So, you know, the question is, was that one of those nights? Is that one of those learning experiences, or is it going to be a tendency or a trend? And, you know, everybody's got a choice there. So I give our guys credit. They got back on their feet. I think, you know, we were better focused and, you know, came up with a win the next week, and then, you know, came back to work following that and had the right focus and move forward. But, you know, the season's full of twists and turns. Say it every year. You just never know what they're going to be or when they're going to happen. And it's really a matter of how can you navigate through the ups and the downs. And the downs are hard, but it's part of what we do. So you got to be able to deal with it.
Chad Lystico again. We know next to nothing about Jackson Stratton.
Makes three of us.
You know
his nickname?
No.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm not going to go.
Oh, come on.
Shaggy. That's Shaggy.
Shaggy, okay.
Scooby-Doo.
He does kind of look like. Yeah. You referenced in the post game, you know, Marco got hurt in Monday's practice, so obviously Jackson didn't start the week as the number 2 quarterback. I guess how have you seen him, you know, getting thrust into this? How have you seen him adjust to this? Is it better this week now that he's getting the full 2 reps? And, like, what would it be like if he got in a game?
Yeah, that's a great question right there. Yeah, I mean, it's still interesting how guys get here. Sometimes I've said that about Hayden Large, and Tim was out there checking out some quarterbacks back in the spring and stopped by in San Diego and saw Jackson. And, you know, he had played for Colorado State last year, was there, and looking to go somewhere else. So it's funny how it worked out, but he ended up coming. Met his mom and dad here when we had a luncheon for all the newcomers in August, and great people. And, you know, none of us envisioned this happening, but, you know, he impressed us in camp. He can throw the ball really well. And, you know, but then you kind of, you know, start getting in game mode and all that kind of stuff, so we really didn't see him much. And I thought he did a really good job last week. End of the week, I think maybe it started reality dawned on him a little bit, and like, oh, you know, I could be in there. And I think all of us are trying not to think too hard about that right now. But if he goes in there, you know, he's practiced well this week. He's really learning, and yeah, he's a very capable thrower. So that's his strength. And, you know, we'll see what happens. But, you know, hopefully we just kind of keep the status quo and just keep moving. But he's done a good job.
Scott Docterman again with The Athletic. I think as the years go on, we kind of draw parallels to the past from some of the previous teams you've coached. And this one, to me, kind of reminds me of 08, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, because 07, he had a lot of injuries, you know, Bruggeman getting taken out right at the end of camp, you know, all those things, and then really struggling. But then in 08, it just gradually got better and better, and the running game was fantastic. Do I see it right that there's some sort of level of similarities between the offensive line, especially, and the growth that they made? And did you look back yourself and kind of see how things progressed as maybe a guide or a lesson or something?
Yeah, all the time. And to the point earlier about, like, you know, guys come in ranked. You know, the first thing I think about with 07 is a guy like Dace Richardson, who was highly acclaimed and rightfully so. Like, he was the real deal, and how injuries affected his career. And that's a hard part, because, I mean, there's not a better young guy than Dace. Tremendous person. He was such a good player. He and Tony Moyaki, same high school. And, but, you know, just had a tough time here with the injury thing, and, you know, it's a shame. So this isn't always fair. That's a hard thing. But, yeah, that line went through a lot of stuff. And then in 08, we started getting a little confidence and getting things going a little bit. And Sean obviously ran the ball really well. And, you know, if we can, the point to the players is that, you know, that there's parallels thus far, but it's all about how you finish. And, you know, that team finished. You know, I think we won 6 out of 7 or something like that. And, you know, really played well. That once we got through that 3-3 span, that three game deal. But it you know, takes the right kind of people. And, you know, at least our guys are working at it. We'll see what happens here in the next couple of weeks.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. We've seen Jalen Watson get meaningful snaps as a true freshman. Just what has he done to earn that opportunity so early?
Yeah, he's just done a good job in practice, basically. And then the other part is that we've had some attrition. You know, Nestor's out with a hamstring. So it opens the door for somebody to jump in there and get an opportunity. And Jalen's been doing a good job. He had an injury in camp, missed a lot of time in August. So he's overcome that and impressed. And he's been on the scout team. He's been working with the defense a little bit, obviously now. Gets a chance to be with the defense. But, it's all about what he does moving forward. He's a good prospect. We really like Jalen.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, we talked to Jazin earlier today, and he said that Liddell's like a father figure to those in the running back room, and it just seems like Liddell's kind of fostered a competitive culture, but a lot of accountability, but a very selfless kind of community in that running back room. How would you describe Liddell's impact on the room and kind of his coaching style in general?
Dan McCarney saw Liddell coaching in high school. Liddell was doing a camp or a combine, I think, up in the Sarasota, that area over there. And, he lives on the other side of the state, or did live on the other side of the state. And Dan watched him at camp whatever that was, a couple of years ago. And when he and I talked, he said he reminded him of a young Carl Jackson. And that, for anybody that worked with Carl Jackson, as Dan and I did, that's the highest compliment you can give anybody, any coach. I don't care about position, but Carl had a really good way about him. Very direct. He's a great mentor to his players, but also very direct, and he was demanding of them, but it was always in a good way, a healthy way. And Liddell is not a big talker, but he's been a big doer, throughout his whole career. I don't think he was a big talker when he was here in school, but he was one of the toughest guys I've ever seen. I still tease him about, to survive the 99 season. I think he had over 4 carry. I don't know how he did it. We couldn't block anybody. And so I was teasing him about that. It was like a crash dummy running up in there. But he had such a good career, and he's the same guy as a coach and as a professional. And he's got a great family on top of it. So, I mean, he's just a model guy, really model guy, and he's doing a really nice job with those guys.
Owen Sebring with KGAN. I want to ask about Logan Jones, just what, in your estimation, has made him ready for this spot as a captain. A kid who started as a defensive player, got moved over, had to replace Tyler Linderbaum a few years ago, and now getting ready to step in as a captain. Yeah, and full disclosure, I screwed that up because we didn't move him until spring. We should have done it in December like we did with Tower, so I blew that one. Probably set his career back, I don't know, half a year or something like that, really. But all he does is work. He's a pretty quiet guy. He's not really outspoken, but he just works every day. He shows up, and he's gone through some injury issues, shoulder surgery that, and that's not uncommon, unfortunately, in this profession or this game. But he just shows up and works. He's respected. Everything he does is first class, and comes from a great family. Mom, sister, just super people. But ever since he's shown up here, he's the same guy every day. And I don't want to call him Tower because that's not a fair comparison. They wear the same number, but there are a lot of parallels in terms of their work habits, their attitude, their demeanor, all those kinds of things. And we talked about the safety being a switchboard position. The center is a critical position for communication and just kind of stabilizing things, and he does a really good job with that too.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Coach, I think I know the answer to this question, but, I know this isn't a bowl trip. I know this is you guys are trying to win a game this week. But there's been fans who have been looking forward to this game for quite a while. Some of the players said they've never even been west of Nebraska at all. So I was just curious, is there any appeal to playing a game in Los Angeles to you?
Not really. I mean, the venue will be cool. But it's kind of like Wrigley. I'll explain it to you this way. My wife would be the first one to tell you because she still laughs. I got drenched at the Super Bowl when the Bears and Indy played, and her response was, "Well, you mean nobody?" And we got home at 3 o'clock because we didn't have a ride lined up coming out. "Oh, you mean nobody drove you to the game? Nobody gave you a coat when it rained? All that kind of stuff." So, but that's really kind of our life, and it's one of the most enjoyable things I've done in my life is take my daughters on college visits because I get to see the college, not just the stadium. We get off a bus, we go play. We go to the airport, go to a hotel, go to a stadium, get off, play, get back on the bus, airport, and you're on your way home. So we'll see less of Los Angeles than anybody affiliated with the, following the team, that's for sure. And quite frankly, I mean, that's why we're going. We're going to play a tough game against a tough opponent, and we all know that. Like, we know we got our work cut out, and this is going to be, a tough challenge for us. But, like a lot of things, I mean, that's the stuff, hopefully somebody takes some pictures and we'll look at those during the bye week and, hey, it's cool, all that kind of stuff. But I still haven't seen those mountains. Well, I take it back. We went in 87, it would have been the 88 Rose Bowl, because we played in the Holiday Bowl, stayed out there a day, and then we came up as a staff and saw USC and Michigan State. So I have seen the Rose Bowl like as a tourist, a fan, and it was cool, but no, it's a game. That's really what it gets down to. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks.